Hi everyone, Kathy Aranzana here, and today I'm doing a quick video on coloring pleats with Copic markers. I'll be using Lacey Has a Letter from Stamping Bella, and I decided to do this quick video. I'm not going to color the whole image, I'm just going to show you how I do the pleats, because in my Patricia Loves Pumpkins video I kind of touched on it, but I didn't explain it very well, and it was kind of hard to see what I was doing. So I thought in this video I would go step by step, so you could see the process of pleats and how I color them. And when I do pleats, I like to use 4 colors. And for this one, I'm using Y21, YR23, YR24, and YR27. And I'll actually be starting with YR24. And what I do with my very first color is very light-handed, very thin lines, and I'm just kind of mapping out where the pleats will end up. And I will usually use the packaging of the stamp. I usually use that as a guide, so I don't have to guess where the pleats should be. One of the reasons that I do start with my mid-tone is I'm really very heavy-handed when it comes to the darkest. So when I was watching a couple of tutorials and when I've read about tutorials, a lot of times they did start with the darkest. And I'm too heavy-handed for that. My darkest color seemed to just take over the whole project. So then I tried starting with my lightest color, but when I did that, I kind of lost where I was going with the pleats, and the next thing I knew, my lightest color took over the whole project. So I kind of had an aha moment and thought, well, let's try with the mid-tone and see how that works. And it has actually worked out quite well. Up at the top there, those aren't really going to be pleats as much as just light folds in the fabric, and it's just from the way that she is standing. So that's why I added those up in there. Now I'm going to come in with the YR23, which is my second mid-tone. And when I add the YR23, I thicken the lines a little bit and I extend them up a little bit. And I add the shape, I start to add the shape at the bottoms of the pleat, so it's a little bit kind of rounded. And that was another difficulty that I had with pleats before, was at the very bottom I always had like this big bulbous teardrop looking thing. So I found that by slowly adding in the shape at the bottoms of the pleats, that really helped so that the shape was a little bit more uniform as opposed to like this big blob at the bottom. And I just kind of extend it up a little more each time, going up as far as I want. And then for the folds in the fabric up at the top, I'm just barely extending those out and just adding a little bit of color on just one side of that line. Now is the time that I come in with the darkest, which is going to be the YR27. And I add very little color here. I mean, just the smallest, tiniest little flicks, as you can see, because I move my hand after each one, so you can see just how little of the darkest color it is that I use. So when coloring pleats, there are a couple of things to keep in mind. They kind of look like a hot mess when you're at this stage. They don't really look like anything. They don't really have much of a shape at all. But don't give up on it. Just kind of keep working it. They do eventually start to take the shape. Now I'm coming in with the Y21. And with the Y21, I'm going over all of the color that I had laid down previously. And I'm also going out on either side just a little bit, but I am reserving quite a bit of white space, and that's to maintain a highlight. And that was another difficulty that I had. When I would come in with my lightest color, I would just go over the whole thing, and I lost a lot of the highlight. I lost a lot of the dimension because I didn't continue to build that color up, which is one of the many benefits of Copic markers, is you can continue to build color up if you continue to go over it and over it. So here, that's basically what I'm doing, is I'm blending out the darker colors, and I'm putting down my first layer of my lightest color, yet still maintaining white space so that I have a nice highlight by the time I'm done. After this point, I do kind of take a step back and let the ink settle in a little bit. And I kind of look at it, and then what I'll do is I'll come back in, and for those that didn't blend, you know, the areas that really didn't blend very well, or I thought that the bottom was still a little bit too dark, I'll go over that again. I'll add a little bit more shape to the bottom if I feel that it needs it. And up there, I thought that those folds were still a little bit too dark, so I tried to blend those out a little bit more as well. But I'm still leaving that white space there. I'm not quite ready to go and fill all of that in. And on the left-hand side there, you can see how I kind of started to take that Y21 out a little bit further as I went higher up with the pleats. And with pleats, you just want to don't give up. I promise you, you can do this. It just takes a little bit of time. It does take some practice, a little bit of patience. And here's where I go in and I fill in all of the white space. Now, when I do go in and fill in all the white space, you'll see that I still go over all of the colors that I had laid down before. And I do that because it's just one more little round of blending them out. It's also adding a second layer, or a third layer, I think in this case, of that Y21 to deepen it. Yet, since I'm only going over the white space once, that is going to maintain the highlight quite nicely. And that right there is how I color pleats using Copic markers. And I think I actually go in and color a couple of the hearts on her little dress. And that's another thing, when there's other images on there, you don't have to worry about those little images. You just color right over them. But when you do come in and color them in, you do obviously want to use a darker color. And for the hearts here, I used an E99, and I only color a couple of them just so you can see that they do stand out, even with the pleats in there that I've colored in. Anyway, I hope this technique was helpful to you. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Thanks so much for joining me.